Coming up on Refresh Cinema.
He kissed her on the lips.
Yeah.
On the mouth. She's a child. He is an ageless, eternal being. Come on.
Hey everybody, welcome to Refresh Cinema. I'm Vincent.
And I'm Jess, and today we are discussing Disney Channel original movie, Don't Look Under the Bed. This is one of my favorite childhood spooky movies. And even as an adult, it holds up.
It does.
I hadn't seen it in maybe 20 years.
Ditto, yeah.
And it's still so good. It's a little campy. It's silly. But there are some genuinely spooky moments that you see in classic horror films.
Yeah, they're definitely taking some cues. Like, there's a scene that's straight out of Poltergeist, little nods there and there. You know, the classic, like, monster shadow going across.
Yeah.
There's definitely somebody who's a fan of classic horror making this film.
Yeah. So the overview, for those of you 80s and 90s babies who haven't seen it, I'm very disappointed in you. Basic nuclear family, parents, little brother, middle sister, big brother. And the middle sister, it revolves around her. Mm-hmm. She's first year of high school, but she skipped a year. So she's a little younger than the other kids. Mm-hmm. And she had to grow up a little faster than the other kids because her little brother is like recovering from cancer. Yeah. So it's got its deep, your Disney Channel undertones. And there's some ruckus happening about town. And all signs point to little Miss Frances Bacon. That is her name. Frances Bacon.
Did your alarm clock go off 3 hours early this morning?
How could you know that?
But we find out it is paranormal, and it is the work of a boogeyman. This movie is such an adventure.
Yeah. Frances is the type of character that because of, and this comes a message about not growing up too fast.
Yeah.
And she's a character that goes around, she's always like, there's a logical reason for this, there's a logical reason for everything, all that stuff. And she's played very well by the actress who, I believe the actress' name is Erin Chambers. Mm-hmm. And she's very stiff and, she's very stiff and, I try to act more grown up than she really should be.
Yeah.
And then she's completely contrasted by the character of Larry Houdini, played by Ty Hodges.
I didn't really run away.
Yes, you did.
I just needed some space to reevaluate the situation. I didn't know you could see me.
Oh, he's great. So he is just in the courtyard on Frances's first day of high school, and he's staring at her, and she says to her friend, who is this guy staring at us? Yeah. Not quite that terribly. But and her friend's like, what are you talking about? There's nobody there.
Yeah.
And then he like that poofs, and he's on top of the school, and he's watching Frances. So we see that he's already some otherworldly thing. And some weird stuff starts happening. Like Frances's parents say, we had 24 eggs last night. Where were they?
Yeah. And
shortly after, one of Frances's favorite teachers' convertibles, I think it was, is just getting rained on. But it's raining eggs.
Dozens and dozens and dozens.
And so for me, my first thought is this mystical guy who's creeping about is trying to blame Frances for things. Or the wonderful scene where the dad says, we're out of Jell-O. I was going to make my weird fruitcake. And then we see the school swim team is in action, and someone dives right into a jiggly thing of red Jell-O. How nobody noticed the Jell-O is beyond me.
I wasn't going to let that go, because the whole swim team, it's swim class.
Everybody's there, and the whole thing is red Jell-O.
Yeah, and she's just sticking out, and her legs are, like, pumping back and forth, and I'm just like, as goofy as this is, like, oh, she jumped into a giant Jell-O, I'm just like, she's going to effing suffocate. They're gonna get her out of there. Who wants that on your tombstone? I drowned in Jell-O.
Who's gonna get her out of there? They're gonna have to like pencil dive in there and hope they don't go in the whole way.
Yeah, because all these like things that are happening, they're all like pranks that a kid would do. Like the first one we see is Frances' family. They get up several hours early by accident because somebody set all the clocks in the house a few hours ahead. So they think it's like 7:30 in the morning.
It's 4:30.
It's 4:30 in the morning. And it wasn't just them. Apparently it happened to almost everybody in the neighborhood. On top of everybody in the neighborhood who has a dog, their dog is on the roof of their house.
Why is that dog on the roof?
And what? So, right? And Frances is suspected. She's in class and she's a little busybody, you know.
Yep,
She has a list of every student who's had these things happen to them with their addresses and phone numbers. So she asks her teacher, this is right before he gets egged.
Yeah.
She says, were your alarms set ahead this morning? Because all of these people's were. So it's made out that she's the ringleader of all of this chaos.
Even though she's just trying to figure out what's going on, the truth, you know.
Yeah, so eventually, Larry Houdini, the imaginary friend, starts talking to her, and she doesn't realize he's imaginary.
Yeah.
He tries to prove to her time and time again. He gestures in front of people, and she still is unfazed.
Well, that's stealing, you know.
Well, he knows he shouldn't eat this stuff. It makes his face break out.
And this boogeyman is very clearly following her around
Yeah.
to know that her best friend has a crush on her brother.
Yeah.
And in the morning, the next morning, in the yard, it said like, Bo loves Billy or whatever.
Yeah.
Hi, Joe.
How could you do this? Joe loves Bert?
So clearly the boogeyman is very close to her.
Yeah, it's targeting her at the very minimum. Somebody who's got it out for her. Because, because there's this scene later where, somebody is spray painting bees all over, on every locker in school.
For Francis Bacon.
Yeah. And giant bees on businesses throughout town, and bees on the bottom of people's shoes. And even, I think there was, a baby who had, bees on the shoe. But Francis's locker does not have a bee on it until she opens it up, and there's a bee on the inside, and people are like, see, it's got to be her, instead of oh, whoever's doing this is targeting you.
Yes, someone's after her, clearly.
Doesn't mean I had to do with it.
See, this is her.
They're wait, this chick is in danger.
And everyone's like, oh, it's got to be
Somebody
her.
call the hall monitor.
Right? Right? Something.
Yeah.
So it's just, and she's been talking to Larry, and Larry says, listen, girl, you got a boogeyman.
Yeah.
And Larry's so funny. He's so animated.
Kai Hart, he's like a young Jim Carrey almost, with how physical he is with his comedy. He's great.
He plays it so well.
Yeah.
And-
you can believe a little kid would have a grand time with this dude.
Yes, and she's still like, you're full of spit, bro. You're not imaginary. And in the quintessential, as we say now, the ick moment,
Yeah.
or as many of us know, secondhand embarrassment, he's talking to her in the cafeteria saying, I'm imaginary friend, it's the boogeyman, and he's dancing in front of people. Clearly no one's reacting. And
Stealing French fries.
Stealing French fries. So she gets up on a cafeteria table and very theatrically says, who is this guy? Really? He says his name's Larry Houdini.
Does anybody know who he really is?
Hell, she even is confronted by the principal, her favorite teacher who thinks she's responsible for the egging, and I guess the guidance counselor, and they're like, what's going on? And they're like, no, she's like, there's this guy, he's named Larry Houdini.
Well, there he is. He's right there.
Hey.
And she chases him down the hallway into the music classroom where he's dancing on top of a piano, and they chase after her, and she's like, see him, and he's playing a trombone to it, and they can't see or hear him, and they're like, Francis, what are you talking? There ain't nobody there, And she slowly starts to come to the fact that there's no, either the adults are messing with her, and then going from that to, oh wait, maybe this guy really is an imaginary friend.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, but she's starting to come more and more to the fact that that she's mislogical. It's well, that's a kiddie thing. Kiddie things are fantasy. They're not real. They're just a lies or imagination.
Oh, and then also throughout the film, Larry had been telling the kids he runs into, keep the covers over your head.
Yeah.
The boogeyman can't get you that way.
Yeah. So there are some defenses against a boogeyman, which I like how they make it stuff that, okay, a child would do that anyway, so they don't have to, prepare to get rid of the boogeyman, you need to make a salt circle and pray to and pray to a voodoo goddess. Yeah.
But if you pull your covers over your head at night, the boogeyman can't get you.
Darwin, the boogeyman is just something that somebody made up to scare children.
And then there's a scene where she confronts him in the playground because her little brother was told by another little kid there's this guy at the basketball hoop who's dressed like a karate guy. And
she tries to say you hypnotize these kids or you brainwash these kids or something.
Yeah.
What? What? Only a 13-year-old
Yeah.
man.
What you really did was just hypnotize the principal and Miss Riddle to make them think that they couldn't see you.
What?
Yeah.
But then she like the big evidence, like beyond the fact like, hey, no one else can see me. He does this thing like you will see like pole dancers do, where like he grabs onto some monkey bars and then he pretends to like walk up an invisible wall, which with pole dancers is just amazing muscle control that they have.
Yeah.
Which respect anybody who can do pole dancing. But for him, nope, it's just it's a bad green screen effect.
But it's a great imaginary friend thing.
Yeah, because he's like changing his outfits throughout the movie the whole time. You know, like he's like dressed like a cowboy at one point. He's got this hockey player thing going on.
Yeah.
He's just a ton of fun. He can fit in. And then later we have the scene at the library.
Yes, a bunch of little kids in the library, and Francis is there, and he's making all the kids laugh and have fun, and the kids are watching TV, and Larry walks behind it. Now he's in it.
Yeah.
He's the programming.
Who wants to hear the story about the boogeyman?
And also, to note, during all this time, we're seeing glimpses of the actual boogeyman.
Yeah.
Larry's trying to convince her, there's a boogeyman out for you, babe.
Yeah, this thing with claws. We keep seeing the hands and the
Yes,
claws.
the claws, and we see the boogeyman's claws setting up the, like, Bo loves Barry in the yard. And we see the boogeyman hand enticing the dogs with the treats
Oh, right.
to get onto the roof.
Yeah, that was kind of scary. I was like, oh, don't. Cute
Like,
little
what are you going to
puppy.
do to the dog? Not in a Disney Channel original movie. Come
No.
on. Yeah. Oh, and they're in another note, which will come up later. They're in Middleburg.
Middleburg. Yeah, weird name for a town.
Yeah. But anyway, that'll come up later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the library, and she's not wholly convinced. And then he finds this book about boogeymen and imaginary friends.
The boogie book?
And he's like, look, see, it's dedicated to me. And he opens the page. It's like, for Larry.
Yeah. No, because there's a guy he can hear in his head, which he never explains who that is. He just says, oh, I can hear somebody in my head.
And they sent me to take care of you and
Yeah.
make sure you don't die.
I don't know who the voice is. Maybe is it the magical king of imagination? Is it God himself?
What?
I don't know. But I do know the scene where he's performing in front of the little kids at the library. Once again, Ty Hodge is showing off his physical comedic prowess. And those kids, the little kids in the library are having a grand time. They're laughing and stuff. And I honestly believe that they were like probably genuinely laughing that Ty Hodges was just doing a great job playing
Oh,
Larry.
yeah. I would want him to be my imaginary friend. He
Yeah.
was so fun.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Yeah, but yeah, so it's just they're getting to the point where like Francis is finally believing him and stuff like that. We find out that Larry was her brother Darwin. Larry was his imaginary
For
friend.
little brothers, yeah.
But she convinced her little brother to not believe in him anymore because she believed.
No, he needs to believe in his doctors, okay? Something real? That's how you stop being afraid. You grow up and face reality.
Honestly, it was a really well handled subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a Disney Channel movie that's like going through this terrible thing that affected the whole family. Though the older brother who gave the bone marrow to save him, I feel that nothing. They really don't do anything with him. He's kind of like aloof about everything.
That kid's unfazed. He's like 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, oh, my brother's fine now. Xbox.
Yeah, I wish they would have done a little bit more with him, but
Yeah.
I like how they do with Frances. That feeling of powerlessness that she couldn't do anything, so she decided to grow up. That was her way of dealing with like, oh well, adults can handle things better, even though speaking as an adult, not always true.
Who let me be an adult? I'm 33, and what? Who let me be an adult?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is also around the time that we find out how boogeymen come to be.
Yes.
Which is when a child stops believing in their imaginary friend too early.
Yeah.
And we see Larry start to display some signs of becoming a boogeyman. First, he's upset with Francis, and voice changes a bit because they have this conversation, this heated conversation where Larry says, "You're the reason why Darwin stopped believing in me. You did this." And it's this very like accusatory, conversation with a lot of emotions.
Yeah, because for imaginary friends, their whole existence is about befriending young children who need a friend who can be there for them. That's his whole reason for existing. And even though it's made known in the movie that Darwin probably isn't the first kid that he was an imaginary friend to, it still point out very blatantly like how important each kid is to an imaginary friend, regardless of whether they're first, second, or whatever, and he's very resentful towards Frances for doing what she did.
You know what, Fran? You just know everything, don't you? That's why you told Darwin to stop believing in me. To show him you knew more than he did.
But he's still trying to help her.
Yeah, no, he hasn't gone off the the proverbial cliff yet. He's still there. He's just getting a little more irritable, a little more ill-tempered with her. But yeah, we start to see the physical stuff. We start to see his nails start to grow
Yes,
out.
when they are creating the machine that's or the formula. Which one is it?
They were great. Yeah, they have a machine that is apparently from the book, from the guy in his head, that apparently when you attach it onto a boogeyman, it causes them to age rapidly before they just turn to dust.
Yes, so they're creating this machine, and we see Larry's nails start to grow.
Yeah.
And she says, "Larry, are you a boogeyman?"
Yeah. And it's pretty much confirmed later when they're making boogie goo, which is some kind of nasty slop.
Soup, kind of.
Yeah, purple crap that apparently boogeymen love. They can't resist it. They love to eat it. And it's filled with all kinds of weird stuff.
Gym socks.
Gym socks, sweat, millipedes, and all. It was kind of classic, like, the kind of stuff you think kids would put together to make a goopy blah. And Larry loves it so much that he jumped inside the pot he was cooking it in, which, by the way, he commandeered the Frances's family kitchen while they were having a guest over.
While they're having a dinner party, and the guest actually pulls the sock out of her mouth.
Yeah. Not gonna eat pudding for a while.
Yeah, and Larry loves it, and you see he appears ravenous for it.
Yeah. He can't get enough. He's just like...
It kind of tastes like chicken with a hint of nutmeg.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's covered. I love the gag where he comes out of the pot and Frances opens the cupboard underneath the island in the kitchen, and there's his legs underneath there. So it's like, because he's got magical powers.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. The kind of and then it's when they Frances is like, okay, yeah, you're turning into a boogeyman, and he's like, yeah, because you took Darwin away from me. Like, ugh. So, and Larry runs off. I like this because it's
sad.
Yeah, and it's telling about his character when he is like, no, I'm not turning into a boogeyman. You know what you're talking about. And then he runs off, and where does he instinctively go? He goes to Darwin's room because that's where he feels comfortable. That's where he feels safe. Frances goes to talk to him. There's a lot of tension there. And then Darwin comes in because it's his room, and Frances is like, just give me your room for a couple minutes. I'm trying to help out your friend that I told you to forget about. And he goes to Frances's room, but he doesn't know that Darwin stepped on some of the boogie goo, and the boogeyman has been coming out from underneath Frances's bed. That's his entry point. And we have this terrifying scene that's very reminiscent of Poltergeist, where Darwin's just playing with his dinosaur toys, and the boogeyman...
On the edge of the bed.
Yeah.
You don't die like that again. That's what
That messed up some kids for a while. You know there were a lot of kids checking underneath their beds after that.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, Vincent in the edit here. Well, it turns out that this movie really did scare the crap out of a lot of kids. So much so that parents started complaining to Disney Channel. So many complaints came in that eventually this movie was blacklisted from Disney Channel. It was never aired again on Disney Channel after a certain point. So if you're like me and you only have vague memories of this movie, it's probably because you only saw it once or twice before it was taken away from the channel forever. If you want to check it out, it is on Disney Plus, though.
Poor Darwin is sucked under the bed into the boogie world.
Yeah.
So Larry and Frances are like, you hear something? What do you think that was?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So they brave it, and they get their vacuum machine, and they're ready, and Larry goes in, and he's like, girl, don't follow me. He doesn't say it like that, but
I gotta do this my own. I gotta protect him.
Yeah. Frances decides to go in, and it's so funny to see she's looking under her bed, and you can see the portal.
Yeah.
It's, everything looks kind of like wavy.
Yeah.
And inside, when you go through the portal, you're basically falling off the edge of a cliff, like, immediately.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. I don't know. know, like, does that mean? I mean, did it change when she entered it? Does the portal change or whatever? Because that means like Larry. Well, for Larry, that's not a big problem because he's gravity-defying powers. We saw him do the monkey bar thing, except for earlier in the film when the boogeyman almost knocked him off a roof, and I was just like, just monkey bar, it, motherfucker, you can do this.
That is a continuity error, and I will write to Disney.
Yes, we're coming for you. Coming to give you that sweet, sweet Disney money.
Yeah, I have a complaint.
Yeah, but the Boogie World it's creepy and scary. It's like there's thunderstorms going on at all times. They like I said, they show up on the side of a cliff at first, but everything in Boogie World is stuff that would get left under a bed. But it's giant size now because we're
in
miniaturized.
Boogie World.
I mean, poor Darwin, he gets the sack that the boogeyman puts him in. I think it's just a sock.
Yeah,
I think it's just a giant sock.
Because there's one point where Frances is trying to get him out, and she goes, "Not that long ago, I couldn't even get these on you." And there he is, stuck in there, tangled. So they're on a great quest. And there's a very funny scene where Frances steps on a sandwich and there are worms in it that come up.
The boogeyman!
And try to get her.
Yeah.
That's telling kids, throw away your sandwiches.
Yeah.
That was definitely written in by the parents.
Yeah,
like, little Jimmy's been leaving his sandwiches under his bed.
I wonder if there was a kid who saw that and he was like, "Is there worms under my bed? Oh my God!" Like he goes and he's like, "No."
No, and then he never became that entomologist that he was destined to be.
Yeah, just my old pogs.
Pogs! I had the best pog collection.
Core memory unlocked. Yeah. So then Larry completely turns into a boogeyman.
Do you think I look a little strange?
It's sad.
Now the boogeymen are teaming up.
The old, withered, creepy boogeyman that was like coming out of the mirror.
Yeah,
rhyming everything. He is almost, I don't want to say David Bowie-esque, but I get that vibe a little bit.
I got a British
long
feeling.
Hair.
Yeah, especially the way he was talking. I don't know who the actor was, but credit to the actor because he was good in this. Yeah. So, but then Frances is like, "Darwin, Larry was real. I'm sorry. Blah blah blah.
Believe in him.
And like once he calls out to Larry, snap, boom, he's right back.
I'm back, and you're busted.
And he actually has a really cool fight with the other boogeyman because he turns his one nail into like a short sword, and then Larry picks up a fountain pen, and they actually have like, don't get me wrong, it's not like Kung Fu Master, like Ip Man. This is straight Hong Kong action film. But it ain't bad. They're like fighting with it. He's using it as like a bow staff, and
the pen is mightier than the sword.
But the boogeyman slices it with his elongated fingernail.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they're trying to use the vacuum thing, but unfortunately, it has become unplugged from the real world.
Yeah.
So Frances, in her infinite wisdom, finds some random electronic under the bed.
I think it was like one of those giant D batteries or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's able to rig the vacuum so it works.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. So she latches on like the jumper cables from the machine, that's part of her that's made with her dad's vacuum, clips them on, and the boogeyman starts to age rapidly.
And it's yelling, "Franny, no! Franny!
Yeah.
Franny, why? Stop, Franny!" And you see this look on Franny's face.
Yeah.
Like she has a look of recognition.
Yeah. And she realizes, oh wait, I know this motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Because only one person ever called me Franny. And it turns out that the boogeyman that's been causing all this problems, the boogeyman that for whatever reason has been targeting Frances, it turns out it was her imaginary friend.
Who she cut off too soon.
Yeah, Zoe.
So the boogeyman, who's, as we've seen, was this gentleman with long white hair, icky gross, like that is gone. And now it's this beautiful British woman.
Yes. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Which they foreshadow it earlier in the movie because there's a couple times in Frances's room when the boogeyman's boogieing around and creepy stuff is happening and some of her dolls turn their heads.
Oh, yeah.
And one doll is a young girl with long blonde hair, a bow, and wearing like this Victorian outfit.
Oh, what? I didn't notice.
Yeah, no, I noticed it this time, because I definitely didn't notice it when I was a kid. So she based her imaginary friend after a doll she had.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. and they have this moment where they're back, and they just suddenly like teleport, like the boogie world fades away around them. And they're back in her bedroom, and her and Zoe have a big hug, and it's nice. And then her and Francis and Zoe team up and start mocking Larry.
It's the guy inside his head.
That explains the echo.
And they keep having this like political correctness moment where it's like, it's not Boogie Man, it's Boogie Person. Yes.
Boogie Person.
Boogie Person. And Larry's like, okay, Boogie Person.
Larry's great.
Yeah.
Person.
But then we have this sad moment because they acknowledged Francis like, hey, I'm glad I'm not a boogeyman anymore. Thank you for saving me, but you're too old now to have an imaginary friend. We got to move on. At least I have to move on to the next kid that needs me. Larry will still be around, but Francis won't be able to see him anymore. So.
And she's, why can't you stay? I just got you back.
Yeah. Plus they find out Francis gets cleared of all charges from all the pranks because it's on the news. There's stuff just like this happening in the next town over, which
called Centerville. Which they live in like Middleburg, and now it's happening in Centerville.
Good catch. I didn't catch that before. And so like, oh, there's another boogeyman, so they have to go and find out who this boogeyman is, who their kid was. They got a mission. They got to get going.
And then there's the kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Harry Houdini, Franny Houdini. Oh my God. Everything just molded.
Larry Houdini.
Larry Houdini walks up to Francis and kisses her.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. That sealed the deal. Can't see us anymore.
Because it's going to get a little PG-13. He kissed her on the lips.
Yeah.
On the mouth. She's a child. He is an ageless, eternal being. Come on.
But he's young at heart.
He is young at heart. Maybe he just never... Anyway, not to get like that with it.
Yeah.
But they kiss. And I was like, huh. That's why. This is why he can't be her imaginary friend. She likes that kiss too much. Then she'll get attached. It'll be a whole thing.
Yeah. And then they turn on the Christmas lights to make her go, ah. So she's got her childhood wonderment kind of back. She's still older now. She's still high school age, but she's got that energy back that she lost before.
Yeah.
Later, like Darwin comes into bed with her because he's still kind of shook up from everything that happened. And he says, I'm scared I'm going to get sick again. And they have a nice little talk about it. We fade to credits, and it's a nice little ending. Yeah. But yeah, no, imaginary friend, like, it's been done before, and not very often, but every once in a while I see somebody. I like the boogeyman connection. I like how, like, oh, if a kid, grows up too quick, how does that affect the imaginary friend?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, this is I think for a Disney Channel movie, which once again they didn't get the greatest budget, but they did well. I think all the actors did pretty well in this.
Oh yeah, it was great. And the ending it was very like sappy and sweet, but don't forget there were some spookies through there.
Yeah.
When the talons reach through her mirror
and
go for a little grab.
Yeah. Oh, and then one scene when they're fighting in Boogie World and like Larry dodges one of the nails and it goes through the sock bag.
Yeah. My God, because Larry's fighting the boogeyman, and the boogeyman has extended one of his talons at least like 1.5 feet long.
Yeah.
And Darwin's still wrapped up in the sock, and boogeyman goes to get Larry and it misses, and it goes through the sock.
Yeah. And
you see little Darwin like, I'm about to die.
Yeah. I was watching this last night, and I legitimately, like, I've seen stuff like that 1,000 times in movies, but but it got me. I was like, whoa! Oh! I was like...
For a Disney Channel original movie?
Yeah. And I thought it was like going to come and he's going to dodge, and he was going to, like, hit the ground. But no, he went right through the sack. I was like, oh no, God!
No, not yet!
Oh, God.
But yeah, 10 out of 10, honestly.
Yeah.
It's easy to watch. It holds up. Yeah. It's funny. It's so funny.
Yeah. If you've got a kid and you're a horror fan and you want to get into spookier stuff, I think this would be a nice entry point.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not hardcore. It's something the kids can take on. It's goofy and silly. There's like creepy, spooky, scary moments for a kid. I honestly think this is like this could be a good entry point for a kid if you want to introduce them to like horror movies or whatever.
And if you're an adult who likes to be scared just a little bit, there you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
My sister and I enjoyed watching it. on Friday, and she's 26 and I'm 33, and we sat and we watched it. And we were like, "This is great.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This
No,
is amazing."
we wouldn't be doing the show if we still weren't enjoying parts of our childhood. You know?
Yeah, as we should.
Indeed.
Yeah, so that's Don't Look Under the Bed. If you've seen it, let us know how you feel about it. If you haven't seen it, please watch it and let me know how you feel about it, because I love this movie.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow us on social media. We are on Instagram and Threads, and we're also on TikTok, where you can find clips from the show. Just quick little bites.
Yeah. All
All
right,
right.
everyone. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
And we'll see you soon.
Yep.
Yep. Bye.